These two guns are decades apart in technology and design, but they're both hiding a secret that allows for quicker follow-up shots, better recoil control, and just an overall general better shooting experience that I'm going to share with you guys because now I've spent, well, about 6 years using one of the products. While there are lots of companies and products out there advertising recoil reduction or improved shooting experience, performance, all that kind of stuff, a lot of them are snake oil or just kind of make you believe. Comps is one of the big ones. Some of the comps out there, and I'm sorry if you guys are into comps, but some of them are pulling off their function purely with weight on the end of the muzzle. The comp itself isn't venting enough gases, there's not enough pressure to make a change, but by hanging weight on the end of the gun, it seems like it shoots softer. Of course, there's also ports, like these big old ports on this Bull M5 Jet that vent gases upward, pushing the barrel downward to help reduce recoil. It works, it's effective, you lose some velocity, and you now lose, really, in my opinion, using this in any defensive situation. Should you have to fire from a strange angle, from close contact, or in close quarters, such as in a vehicle or tight space, you might be jetting yourself in the face or kicking up some dust, all kinds of other things with those big ports. So how is it that these two guns then are shooting softer? Well, it's because they're both equipped with a recoil system, not just assembly, from DPM Systems Technologies. You see, when you're firing, and I've demonstrated this many times, those of you who have been with the channel a few years remember back when I wasted a lot of time and ammo getting those cool slow-mo shots of a gun cycling. When the gun fires, that initial movement, that recoil itself from the detonation of the round, is not what causes your hand to move. What causes your hand to move and gives you that shock in the wrist is when the slide bottoms out at the rear, causing you to tilt up, and then it goes forward, and that slam and shift of weight causes the nose to drop back down again. That's where most of your recoil comes from. And you'll notice with this P99, I carried this thing for years and carried it with a DPM system technology in it. I can rack as hard as I want, and you're not hearing that thunk. This is the thunk I'm talking about. Right there, that is the slide bottoming out on the frame. That's when you get impact and a big transfer of energy into the wrist, causing the sharp upward movement. Hopefully I've got still got access to some of that old slow-mo footage to show you this in action. So how does this work? Well, in this SIG 365 fuse, I have one of the early models from DPM Systems that comes with 18 different options. I'll show you as I strip this. There's the recoil assembly, and there is not one, not two, but often 3 springs in these things, a steel rod, and you've got lost behind the desk forever. All of these options. Now I've got multiple of these kits. I'll show you some of the other ones. I've been using these, as I said, for years, not just in the Walther P99, but if you saw my SIG 365 XL build, I used one there where it made a big difference. I used them in ARs, AKs. They make them for dozens of makes and dozens of models. The SIG 365 Fuse is a relatively new one, and I'm fortunate enough to get my hands on one because I've been a fan of these guys since 2016, I believe, is when I met them. Now they've grown exponentially. Well, what you're looking at is, this was the original guide rod that comes in the fuse. This is the new guide rod that comes with the system. These 3 plugs, we've got 2 different soft springs, 3 different hard springs, and 2 different extra hard springs. And this typically takes your total spring force from 20 to 26 pounds for striker fired, 16 to 24 pounds for hammer-fired guns. If you're a 1911 guy or done much with hammer-fired guns, you know that the mainspring, which is the spring that gives the hammer its force, adds a little bit and is a factor in it. Whereas in striker-fired guns like this, we just have a little tiny spring in here for the striker, so pretty much everything has to be done by these springs. Now, what is the job of the spring? We call it a recoil assembly. That's not exactly what it does, and we call it a recoil spring. It does absorb some of the energy in standard stock form, but the main job is to give the slide enough force to come forward, strip a round off of a magazine, potentially a full magazine with most friction and pressure, and bring the slide into battery. Among the advertised benefits of these systems, you'll see that they mention improved or elimination of jams. That is, if you've got an issue with a slide not closing all the way, that could help with it. But it does indeed do significant recoil reduction, the better double tap concentration. If you ever fired hammered pairs, that's aiming once and firing twice, the second shot generally is impacting where the trigger was ready more so than the slide ready when you're trying to really race. And that's where you get that vertical split that lets you know if the gun's returning fully to zero when you're going at maximum speed. So if you've got a slide that is not slamming into the back end of the frame and your gun's not lifting as much, the nose is not shifting as far off target, and you're able to stay on target and have better splits. We will experiment with that at the range, but what I want to show you is how all this works. You choose your springs. You can go softer and have a softer racking gun, but if you go too soft, keep in mind you run the risk of damaging the frame of the gun, as the slide will bottom out. If you go too strong, it might be more difficult to rack, but also if you don't have a good firm wrist, a firm grip on the gun, then your wrist is going to be robbing some of the energy the gun needs, and the gun may not cycle. Each one of these kits for each make and model is calibrated to what that gun can operate in, but keep in mind the extremes are dependent on a good shooter and good ammo. And ammunition is of course another factor in this. Your general factory spring is a compromise. If you want to tune a gun so that your plus P defensive loads shoot as soft as Fiocchi 115 grain, you can do that with this kit. Keep in mind though that if you do that, you may not have a gun that runs smoothly on Fiocchi 115 grain anymore. You might have to keep running it hot. Or if you're a competitive shooter and you run a certain load for power factor and all the point stuff in the games, you can tune a gun to run well on it and run soft and run more powerful ammo, or softer ammo but still cycle well because of the spring choice. So what I've done here is taking the medium spring, which is always gold. Check the instructions on each kit. Sometimes it's color coded and labeled and explained in the kit. But taking the spring, close end on, I'm going to take the longer spacer. The longer the spacer, the more force you're giving the spring. So now we're going a little bit stiffer total combo than factory. Tucking our spacer in, because otherwise the spring can make it go fly. Ask me how I know. And then drop this thing in. Keep in mind the flat spots on this fuse. And with it installed, and I can't show that on YouTube because YouTube's weird. There you go, you can see it. Everything looks normal. We haven't changed the physical attributes or appearance of the gun whatsoever. Sorry, this isn't one of those sexy mods. It's not gold or red anodized, but it does make a difference. So what we'll do next in the second video is take this out to the range and experiment with tuning. Now, this fuse I've carried in this configuration, not with the DPM system in it yet, but I did carry it at TriggerCon, found it pretty comfortable in that holster that I did an article on. So I want to test it with some carry ammo and make sure that I've got the maximum edge that I can take in a setup here, while still allowing a little bit of room for some grit, grime, imperfect situations. In contrast, these three, the HS Product / Springfield Echelon, the Bolt Armory SAS 2 4.25, and the Arsenal Strike 1 Speed, I'm going to make these as flat and silly shooting as possible, which I'm really looking forward to. All three of these, this is a TAC, not the EDC. It's got the steel frame. It's heavier than I'd want to carry. The trigger is a little bit nicer than I'd want to carry, but would make for an awesome range gun. It's also why I have a dot on it. The Echelon, we've got the Icarus Precision Grip Module with the tungsten inserts in there. You guys already saw a video on this and how flat it's already shooting. I want to see if I can go further. And then the Strike 1 Speed with its fast action. It's not using a Browning action. See, barrel stays straight. Was great to shoot. I want to see how much further I can take it. DPM Systems has kind of a root in competition shooting, so they have a lot of competition-oriented stuff. They're also sponsored teams for global competitions, but that doesn't mean that they don't make carryable stuff like the Fuse, the 365 XL that I've already told you about, and then I've got a kit here for my summer carry, which is currently downstairs in the safe, the SAS 2 Ultralight, which I carried. Little tiny short things, short springs in there, but it should make for a fun experiment. We'll definitely do the Fuse on video. If you guys want to see one of the others on video, let me know. The end results of, well, shoot, it's going to be hard to not show these off because I know how silly soft it's going to be. As always, if you're looking for more information on stuff in the videos, check the pinned comment over at GBGunsDepot.com. I can safely put links and tell you where to get all these. These were sent from DPM Systems, which is in Greece. It took quite a while. However, there are some US retailers that carry them. They've been in the US for a number of years. If you're wondering why OEMs don't just go with the system if it's so much better, that's because it's patented. So if they want to do it, they're going to have to sub-brand or pay DPM Systems, or create some type of business deal. And generally, since handgun makers are a business, no matter how passionate they are, they're looking to maximize their margin on the things, and co-branding or going in with a second brand definitely eats into that profit. I don't blame them for it. I'm just glad that these systems are available. If you'd stayed this long, I know that means you're thinking about it and you're wondering, what are the drawbacks? Well, the potential drawbacks could be if you tune too firmly, then someone else can't use the gun if they don't have as good a shooting form as you do, or if you tune too firmly, then it may not run softer ammo, or may not run when the gun is not in ideal configuration, if you will. If it gets a little dirty, things like that, or the ammo is a little imperfect, your magazines will make a difference. Just like my green gun, which is not using the AR system, but I have their AR version in the Marigun. That gun is running on the bleeding edge of minimal energy to cycle, and so it can't use PMags. I have to use Duramags. I need something with less friction inside the magazine for the gun to run. The same will be with this and ammunition, but we should be exploring all of that in the range video. Hope you guys are as excited as I am about all this. It's going to be a lot of work to do the tuning and try to do it properly on video and show variations and combinations that I personally wouldn't pick, but someone else might. But I'm looking forward to it. It'll be a fun time. I appreciate you guys. 9 years strong and going. Coming around on 10 years of the GBGuns channel. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the range.
You to our big man supporter, GBGuns, and I do two-level Andrew, he Joseph, he Randy, he Algie, Peter Ray, Tom, Moises, S. Fast Eddie, all to him, 1-5 Brian, Lee Scott King. Thanks for the tip level, David B. Kratos, the God Slayer, Andrew B. Lee H. Christopher J. J. S. Bar, and H. Brian Bond, Jeff O. Michael W. David G. Holt, Keith Tuba, Fred L. Robert B. Ohio Coupler, Steve A. Briscoe County, Joe Rich, Rich R. Red Sky, Waha, NC, Fear 76, Uncle Muzzy, David F. Keeping things on his level, Gary B. Lake Best, Danielle D. NC, Jake J. Adam J. Brad M. George H. Benny Lem, Edward B. Adrian H. Cody W. Mark S. Sue Charter Lewis R. Edith B. Gary C. J. Logan G. Brian K. Harvey MD 2022A. Gil B. Ronzi. Court Mike. NC Techno Convert 50. CJ Ronald LW. Russ P. Marvin T. Allen B. Tabbit Janine GPC 1986.